Hello and welcome to this week's version of BundesSpeaker, the German Bundesliga podcast from Fresh Off the Gegenpress. I'm happy to be here with Axel again this week. We're going to be talking through a couple of interesting themes that have come up in the last couple of weeks. So Axel's got an interest in Hoffenheim. We've both got an interest in what's going on in Mönchengladbach. Um, and then I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about Dortmund's inconsistency and Mainz's promising start to the season. We'll see where we go with all that. So without further ado, I'll let Axel say hello, and then we'll get on with the show.
Hello. I'm glad to be here once again with Ali to record this. I think it's the sixth edition of BundesSpeaker, so it's going well. We are, as always, very happy to do this and to bring you our thoughts on Bundesliga.
Yeah. Right. So I'm intrigued as to this first section. So Axel sent me a message when we were talking about this, and we were thinking of ideas for the show, and he said, "I want to talk about why I've let Hoffenheim off." So go on, Axel. Let us all know. Tell me, why have you, or what are you forgiving them for, and why have you forgiven them?
Well, what I've given for is, in my opinion, very obvious. It's them well, more or less buying themselves into Bundesliga. That's what I have put him in for. But why I've done it is more of a complex question. In many ways, Hoffenheim have been when I first discovered Bundesliga, Hoffenheim were one of these teams that no one had heard of, that no one knew anything about, and they were like the black sheep, so to speak. I think it's called black sheep, dark horse, yeah, in Bundesliga, and this surprise team that no one knew anything about, and they've stayed that way for a long time. They haven't really done anything more than just being where they are in Bundesliga and geographically, of course. So personally, considering Leipzig have caused a stir in both Bundesliga, Germany as a whole, and in the world, Hoffenheim didn't in the same way, which was probably down to media not having such a big influence on us back then, but also due to Hoffenheim not being as bad as Leipzig were. Sure, Hoffenheim spent more in the season, more in the summer before the season they were promoted to Bundesliga than any other team in Zweite Bundesliga, or even more than all the other teams in Bundesliga combined. But what they've done since they have reached Bundesliga status is that they've not continued with this kind of purchasing frenzy and they have started to develop young talents instead, and playing these young talents, developing young talents, and making them proper players, as they did with Firmino, of course, Folland, and now with Schüler and Philip Ochs, and even Marco Uth, I think, and Nadim Amiri, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
So these players that they have, and even Jeremy Tollian, I think, is from Hoffenheim as well, and they have taken this as a kind of the role in Bundesliga. They haven't bought all their team. They've only developed players to fit the roles they need, which, in my opinion, is a very noble thing to do, considering that they have been financially supported by a big multi-billionaire company. So that's probably why their contribution to the youth in Germany and German football is probably why that's probably the main reasons why I've started to,
a lot of I'd say it's almost not the fact they've contributed to youth football in Germany to the same extent. Like, it's almost good that they're buying their youngsters from outside, because if you think about what RB Leipzig are doing, they're buying all the best young talent from the teams around them. Like, if you think where their players come from, they come from So Selke came from Werder Bremen. Werner came from Stuttgart. They're not coming from abroad, or so Firmino. They brought Hoffenheim brought Firmino in from outside Germany. All of those players that you listed didn't come from their promotion rivals. They didn't come from their relegation rivals once they got up. Ibisevic potentially, but other than that, they've gone out into they've gone out into the markets beyond that, and they've got a very strong scouting base in
Mm.
Brazil,
Oh, yeah,
which has worked wonders for them, and a couple in Ukraine as well that seem to have pulled in some of those players. So they develop young players. They're not necessarily German players, and they're not necessarily Bundesliga based or Zweite Bundesliga based players, and they build their team from that. So yeah, their academy is developing into one of the best around as well. So they will be developing German talent, and they've artificially done what other clubs have spent 50 years doing,
mm.
but they're now going about it in the right way, which arguably, if RB Leipzig start doing as well, will be fine. But at the moment, everyone has this big problem because of where they've come from, how they've come from there,
Exactly.
and the it's this whole thing about buying up the competition. People wouldn't hate Bayern if they bought all the players from abroad. They hate Bayern because they buy in the 70s they buy the whole Gladbach team. In the early 2010s they buy the whole Dortmund team. Like by taking players away from your rivals, you're artificially destroying the competition. And I think that's the problem people have with RB to a greater extent than they would ever have with.
Yeah, I agree. And even thing that I think Hoffenheim's done is that they've been a club since I think it's like, yeah, well, 1899.
Yeah,
They were founded, but they weren't a football club until like in the 40s. I think they were a gymnastics club. I think. But they've been a club for so long, and the people in the area around Hoffenheim and like around Sinsheim and around the Neckar Valley, they've kind of grown. They've been acquainted to this team, and they've known this team for a long time. So
yeah.
they have a rather strong basis in an area where there are quite a few decent football teams, but not too much people to let's
They're
say.
all to be fair, they're all quite a distance away though. I mean, there's Heidenheim, Mainz, potentially Frankfurt, potentially Kaiserslautern, but they're all quite a distance to be fair from that Sinsheim catchment region. It's not like in North Rhine-Westphalia
Oh yeah, of course. That's
where there's teams in every region. But then again, it's not quite like the sort of Hamburg area where you're either a Hamburg or St. Pauli fan, and if not, then you might as well go and watch TV.
yeah.
But
See,
yeah, it's not like they've got too many choices really if they want to travel for less than an hour.
yeah.
If
It's
you're
well,
in that region,
it's Sinsheim is rather close to Karlsruhe, Stuttgart, Mannheim. Even though Waldorf Mannheim hasn't been forced to be reckoned with for years. Heidenheim as well, of course. It's like 45 minutes by train to Darmstadt, an hour to Frankfurt, an hour to Mainz, an hour to Kaiserslautern as well.
yeah,
So it's yeah. I mean, the people in the area, if well, there are teams good enough to travel 45 minutes to watch, but to keep the spark alive, so to speak, I think
yeah,
Sinsheim is close they get. Even though Sinsheim isn't really a big city, it's
yeah.
quite small. It's really quite small, and Heidenheim is or Hoffenheim is even smaller, of
Tiny.
course.
I mean, it's about I think 3,500 people in Hoffenheim. I think.
More or less. And Sinsheim was like 30,000 ish.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's not big, and it's not a really big market in the area either. It's a very beautiful area, but it isn't
yeah,
well populated, so to speak.
yeah.
Um,
So there's plenty of sort of mid-range teams, and if we're talking about mid-range teams, that kind of leads us nicely into Mönchengladbach, I guess.
yep.
Um, who are currently sitting ninth, so smack bang in the middle of the table. Um, 3 wins, 1 draw, 2 defeats, 10 goals for, 10 goals against.
Sounds
But
like
what we are going to talk about,
yeah.
sorry, what sounds like?
sounds like a rather regular Mönchengladbach season.
Yeah, sounds
Very,
pretty average, doesn't it?
very,
But
very good attacking side, but horrible defensively.
yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Between the two of us, we've been thinking about this Andre Schubert and what he's brought to Mönchengladbach since he took over from Lucien Favre in the middle of 5 games into last season. So it's been exactly a year since he took over. Well, okay, a year and a game.
Mm.
Let us off, please. We're not that. We try and be perfect, but we're a game out. But so on the 1 year anniversary of Schubert taking over in Gladbach, we're looking at this and we're questioning what he's actually really done. Um, so Axel, if you want to open with sort of what he has done, and we can consider whether that's worthwhile when you think about what he hasn't done with regards to the defense.
Well, what he has done is he's brought, well, let's say, a more entertaining attacking side at home. At Borussia Park, they've been fantastic to watch, but that's about it. That's it. And he's sure. I mean, he's been around for Mahmoud Dahoud, of course, and for his developments, but he hasn't been. He's still a product of the earlier phase in Mönchengladbach's recent history, etc., etc. And he hasn't really replaced Granit Xhaka in a good way. Kramer is a good player, but he isn't the same kind of player as Granit Xhaka is. And while he has brought the best out of like Andre Han and Rafael, the defense, especially of course, always the defense with Mönchengladbach has been horrible.
Yeah.
Too often horrible. And I think, and if you look at Anders Schubert's track record in his career, he hasn't done too well. I mean, he was fired from St. Pauli in 2012 for, well, starting the season in a rather shambolic way, to be honest. And then he left for, I think it was Wolfsburg or Hamburg. No idea. Don't remember. Okay. And they're like under 23 team, something like that, or Junior Berlin. No idea. So he hasn't got the experience, in my opinion, to manage or coach a team of Borussia's stature for a long time, and at least not at a high level for a long time. So he hasn't brought too much. The things he has brought is, well, Mahmoud Dahoud and a great attacking side at home.
They are a fantastic attacking side. It's true, actually. It's interesting that they've got a very tough Champions League group again,
Mm.
and they're not doing too bad. I mean, if you take out, I mean, what triggered this thought was the fact that they got hammered 4-0 by Schalke, which, given how Schalke have started the season, is an embarrassment. Um, so that means they've conceded 10 from 6, so that's 6 from the other 5. I mean, even if you take into account they wouldn't have conceded, exactly one a game, but that's a lot of goals when you're looking to be a team challenging in the Champions League, challenging, potentially even Bayern and Dortmund and Leverkusen at the top. If that's your aim, you can't be conceding that many goals. And Favre left the club because he started the season so poorly. And really, it was the defence that let them down then. But he's not brought anything to it. And the players that he's brought in at the back, I mean, Yannick Vestergaard is not a very good defender, in my opinion. Like he was at Werder Bremen for as long as I've been conscious of the Bundesliga.
Me too.
Um, and he was always one that like people knew who he was because he's got this long hair and he scores headers and he's one of those that seems to just make a big impression on people. But he was terrible, really defensively. Like very good, like on the ball, very good player. Going forward, really like made the game work. And you saw that in the halftime stats the other day in the Schalke game. He'd had the most touches out of any player on the pitch, and that's fine if he's playing holding midfield. But if you're bringing him in to cover centre back, which he has been, uh, I can't see that as an adequate replacement. And they're having problems basically across the entire back line with either with injuries or loss of form or just the players simply not being good enough. So you have to question the players he's brought in. You have to question the way he's training them. But I mean, to be fair to him, he's also been left with some pretty average defenders
Yeah.
from Favre for his time. So
So
um,
basically, do you say that Yannick Vestergaard is the Danish David Luiz?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
it's a very nice analogy. You know, crazy hair, not
Mm.
crazy hair, but like long blonde hair, very typically Scandinavian hair.
Mm. Ah, yeah.
I hope you won't be offended by me saying that.
No worries. No worries. They're
It's the
Danish, you
stereotype we
know.
have, at least.
Danish, you know. I hope I haven't offended any Danish listeners. But yeah, so yeah, yeah, I do agree. He wasn't left with too impressive defense in any way. I personally don't think Christensen 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 is too good either. I think he's one of the most overrated players in Bundesliga. Personally, I think he's a great prospect, but he isn't good enough to lead the defense in Bundesliga,
Yeah.
let alone zweite Bundesliga, in my opinion. He's possibly, but not Bundesliga. At least not top
Not
of
yet.
Bundesliga. Not yet. In a few years, absolutely, he has got the potential, and the yeah, he's got looks of becoming a really good central defender. But at the moment, he's decent, but not good enough to lead Mönchengladbach defense. At least not when he's teamed up with Vestergaard and, well,
Yeah.
Janski, I think, who also isn't too good. At least not right now.
Yeah. So we need to see some improvement from them going forward. Another team we need to see an improvement from, Borussia Dortmund,
Mm.
which is going to sound odd to anyone listening from England, but I mean, I said at the start of the year, I thought the squad had changed too much for them to be realistic title contenders. And I think, to be honest, we've seen that in the first 6 games. You've seen that they lost away in Leipzig, they lost away in Leverkusen. And if you're going to be challenging at the top, you can't be losing two out of your first six. It's as simple as that because Bayern are not going to lose many. They dropped points against Cologne. Very impressive performance from Cologne.
Mm.
They continue their fantastic start. But if Dortmund want to be pushing Bayern all the way, and even if they want to be finishing above Leverkusen, in my opinion, they need to be winning pretty much every game, and they can only afford to draw on the road. They can't be affording to lose, especially the game at Leipzig. That was a pretty poor performance from them, and I think that's been the main thing for them so far. They haven't created enough chances in front of goal when they've not been playing well, and that's the key thing when you're going for the title. Bayern will always score goals, regardless of whether they're playing well, regardless whether the team is clicking on the pitch. They will score goals because that's just Bayern. That's how they've always been. If there's a chance, they take it. They might create one chance in 90 minutes, but they'll take it if they do. And
Mm.
you know that. Whereas with Dortmund, Aubameyang's not started quite as quickly as his fans probably would have hoped. The new guys have bedded in individually, but they haven't bedded in as a team. So Dembele's looked good, Guerrero's looked good. And on the games where they've all clicked, they've been incredible to watch. That spell in the middle where they put sort of 20 goals past four different teams, that was incredible. But then it's the games that don't go your way that you really need to see them step up and make the difference. And against Leverkusen, I know they came up with the excuses about the tackling being rough or whatever, but people are going to do that. People are going to roughhouse you and see if you can put up with it. And Leipzig and Leverkusen have shown that Dortmund really can't put up with it if they're challenged properly. So personally, that for me is they're already out of the title race as far as I'm concerned. I know that's very early and very premature to say that, but um, if they can't continue to pick up points when they're not playing well, and not even not pick up points, but not look like they're going to pick up points either. Like Leipzig, it never looked like it was going to be anything other than 0-0. So in the end, they weren't quite as Leipzig stole the game from them at the end. But there's something lacking. There's something missing, and I think it's just that team bonding that they haven't had the chance to do yet. You know, the game against Real Madrid, they probably would have lost that if it hadn't been for the goalkeeper. So the Real Madrid goalkeeper, that is,
Oh yeah.
not Berkey. Um, I don't know. I can't remember his name, but it
No,
wasn't the first choice goalkeeper.
Casilla, Kiko Casilla, yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Anyway, he was pretty shocking.
yeah. I do agree. I do not, however, agree with them being out of the title race. In most leagues, they would be already. Not in Premier League, but in Serie A, definitely. But yeah, they might be, of course. But in 20, 2009, I think it was, when Wolfsburg won the league. Wolfsburg were placed, I think, seventh at the beginning of the spring season at the so things can happen rather quickly.
Potentially, but that wasn't this Bayern team.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking as well,
That has
and
to be the difference.
that wasn't. And now Bayern don't have Louis van Gaal either. Now they have Carlo Ancelotti, who
Mm.
is well, like he is ahead of van Gaal, of course. So practically, yeah, they're out. Theoretically, no, they wouldn't
Yeah.
be out until, well,
I mean, yeah,
change.
because Bayern can still collapse
It could, but
and Dortmund can go on a good run, and if that does click and that does gel, then they've got a chance. But Bayern don't look like slipping up all that often, to be honest.
Bayern don't slip up. That's the
Well,
thing with Bayern. They don't.
the modern Bayern, anyway, this team that we've been blessed with watching in the last 4 years or whatever, they just don't make mistakes. That was probably the main thing that Pep did do right. They just never faltered in the league, at least. They never thought a game was too easy for them. They never took their foot off the gas the entire season. They were cruising, but they were cruising really, really effectively. So, okay, so that's Dortmund, who I think they're going to score a lot of goals this season. It's just whether they win all the games as well. That's the main thing. So then the other team I'm interested in, currently sitting in 11th, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats, Mainz, who have been, well, they've been pretty exciting to watch so far. 12 goals scored, 11 conceded. They're involved in that crazy 4-all draw with Hoffenheim, which was
Oh,
my favourite game to watch of the season so far.
yeah, of
For
course.
pure ridiculous, well, everything was ridiculous in that game.
Mm,
Mostly the defending, it has to be said. But yeah, Mainz, I'm quite interested by because they've had to rebuild a lot of the team again. Lost the goalkeeper, lost the central midfielder, and the captain in Bo Baumgartlinger.
yeah,
And they're seemingly stepping up pretty well. Like their squad isn't doing so badly, considering they've got a couple of new holding midfielders in place. They've got a couple of young guys coming through.
mm,
They've still got Mali. They've still got Muto. They've still got Cordoba. So I'm excited for where it goes. They didn't have a great game on Sunday against Wolfsburg. That was definitely one to forget. That 0-0. But yeah, I'm excited to see where that project is leading because they've been building on it for a few years, and they obviously lost the team manager to Schalke, and but Martin Schmidt's doing a good job there, and I think they could be going a long way.
yeah. Mainz is one of my favorite attacking sides in Bundesliga. They
Mm.
always look, they always look like close to scoring. It doesn't matter where they are on the pitch. They always look like he could score. With the players always being like this kind of counter-attacking, counter-pressing method that Martin Schmidt has made so effective, which makes me consider him to be the replacement for Thomas Tuchel when he leaves Dortmund in a few years for like
Yeah.
Liverpool or United or Real Madrid. And
He's going to follow Klopp wherever
yeah,
Klopp goes. He'll go and
and Martin
follow
Schmidt
Klopp.
follows Tuchel, so the wheel just keeps on spinning. But yeah, their football is similar to Dortmund's in many ways, and I'm as well intrigued to see what they can achieve this season. Well, as a whole, I mean, and in Europa League as well, they haven't lost still, I think, and they looked very good at times, but at times they've been their defending has been just horrible. So things could still happen with two wins, 2 draws, and 2 defeats.
Yeah.
It's mediocre, but I mean the season
It's
has
exciting to see where they go there because there's
yeah,
mediocre results, but it's been impressive performances for the most part.
yeah.
And
Um,
there are plenty of teams around them who have got almost as many points, but have really not looked that good going forward. And tightening up defensively is always, well, it seems to be a thing that we talk about every year in the Bundesliga. Teams just can't defend, but if you can be one of those teams that do defend well, like Cologne, um, then you can go a long way.
yeah, agreed. So in my opinion, the 3 truly interesting teams this season are especially Hertha Berlin and Cologne, of course, and the Mainz. They
Yeah,
they've all got potential to do something extraordinary
yeah.
this season.
How Hertha are up there after their not kind of pre-season with the
Mm,
terrible,
yeah,
you know, Europa League qualification, and then just didn't look good going into the season. Barely anyone signed, and they've kicked on again and started just as well as it did last year. So, yeah, Cologne, I'm really excited by. I think there's a really big chance we could see Cologne playing in Europe next season, and that's a fantastic thing for that club.
oh
For
yes,
those fans, incredible
yes,
fans down there. So I'm excited to see where Cologne go. And yeah, Mainz is one of those projects. Every year they get better. So we'll
oh,
look forward to those. There's a
we do,
lot to look forward to.
we do.
It's an international break now though, which is
Ugh.
well, I guess this time of year is always a bit like this international break always falls on my birthday. So we get this kind of like I'm like, oh yay, I don't have to worry about missing football for my birthday. It's
Right,
brilliant.
that's good.
Um,
That's good.
so I'll take it this time. But we look forward to the return of proper football, especially for England fans. This international break is going to be the worst one for a long time, I think. Okay.
Sweden,
So yeah,
I don't.
so I don't know what it's like for Sweden.
It's better now than before, with the new coach being a bit more positive than the
Yeah,
former one. So yeah, it's okay.
okay.
And our group isn't the best though, but
No,
we'll cope.
no,
Cope.
yeah. Right. Good. Thank you, Axel. It's been
Thank you.
lovely to chat again. I'm just going to finish by saying I've done a little bit of a rework on the site today. Um, so you may remember or may have noticed over the site in the last couple of weeks that we've added 2 new writers who are going to be talking about La Liga. We've got William Bolton and Daniel Ingvarsen. I hope
Yep.
I'm saying his name right. Who are going to be doing La Liga for us. As a result, we're setting up, or I've set up today, different sections of the site for each country. So we're keeping Centre Circle, and that's going to be where we talk about all the big issues, Champions League, Europa League, anything that we think goes beyond the boundaries of national football. And then there are 2 new sections. There's the Heimkurve, which is where me and Axel are going to discuss German football, and all
Good
the
name.
content that you've loved from us. We're going to put that in there. So as our little tribute to all those curves, all those standing sections around Germany where the fans go crazy
Great name.
on a Saturday afternoon. So that's
Name.
the Heimkurve. And I've introduced La Academia, which I hope is also a good pronunciation in Spanish.
Very good. Very good.
Um, the academy, and as you know, Spain is well known for all these turning out players, La Masia, Athletic Bilbao, Castilla at Real Madrid as well. Um, so there's all these academies. So I thought, let's name that section after the famous academies that Spain have created over the past decade, 2 decades or so since Cruyff arrived at Barcelona. So La Academia will be where you can go for all your Spanish football needs from William and from Daniel. So I hope you enjoy how the site's looking. We're building on it all the time. It's growing all the time. We've got people joining us. We've got new writing every week, 2 or 3, 4 pieces. So we're excited with the way the site's going. We hope you continue to read it, continue to listen to us, and continue to interact with us. And yeah, we'll be back sometime potentially before the end of the international break, but probably just as the Bundesliga kicks off again, we'll be back with another BundesSpeaker podcast. But for today, thank you for listening, and I'll leave Axel to sign off.
Well, ciao.